Welcome back to Founders in the Field, the show where we go behind the scenes with agency leaders, consultants, and creative founders to show you how they're building, scaling, and staying sane in the trenches. I'm your host, Stefan Bradley, and today's guest is Wayne Larkin, Managing Director of Visual Design Group. How you doing, Wayne?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Stephen. Great to be on the
Okay,
program.
thank you for coming on. Let's dive straight in. For people who don't know your story, take us right back to the start of your journey and what made you start your own business and get into this business, and give us an overview of what your role looks like today as Managing Director of Visual Design Group.
Okay, yeah, I'll try and compress that down. I was always on the creative side at school, same with art, and then I was fortunate enough to get into the leading graphic design course in Australia, and for 2 years. And then I was fortunate enough to get a job at what's called Festival Records, one of the main record companies in Australia. And then I quickly went from a graphic designer there in under a year to assistant art director. And then I was fortunate enough to get a job with a leading agency in Australia, known to people as Spasm, where John Singleton worked. It was the most successful agency, especially in relationship to return on investment. And then that was acquired by Dordain Bernbach, which is one of the famous international agencies. So I worked there as well. And then I also started my own accredited agency called Wayne Larkin and Connolly Advertising. And we used to do a lot of major accounts in Australia, media and BHP corporations, as well as government and also SMEs. And then I did that for around 8 years. And then I started the Visual Design Group. We originally had around about, there's about 6 of us, I think, in that group. So here we are today, and it's sort of changed because I also do a lot of work in strategy development. I was brought in by Australian Defence to solve a $5.5 billion reform project they had trouble with for 2 years, and was able to solve that within 4 months. The same as Innovation Department, federal government. So I got into a lot of those problem-solving creative roles as well.
Definitely. It sounds like you're definitely a problem solver, and to be, drafted in by the Australian Defence and, projects like that just shows that how valued your skills are in that type of work. So obviously well done for getting into stuff like that, because a lot of people never get, asked to help with them type of projects. So like, how do you see, like, how, from when you started Visual Design Group to now, how marketing has changed?
Social media has had a huge impact, of course, in relationship to that in a couple of areas. One, it creates a lot of noise, which wasn't there before. So, if you're doing radio or TV or press, magazine, traditional things, you didn't have that noise and clutter. So, and a lot of people do their own social as well, creating lots of noise. So the cut through is a lot more important, and and how you design it, and the behavioral economics and psychology. One I did last year for International Men's Day. The return on investments vary, from 3.7. Goods considered 1 to 5. I achieved 1 to 29, so it's in top 1% in the world.
Definitely
So a lot of it's the, I guess, the experience and strategy of how to position something in someone's mind and get cut through.
Especially with social media and people's like attention span, and like you gotta really cut through the noise, because there's so much different things that can catch their attention nowadays, as opposed to before social media, before phones were such a big thing as they are now, when they were probably just used for phones. Do you know what I mean? It was a little bit easier because there wasn't so there wasn't so much in the mind or around them to draw their attention to different places. So I suppose their attention span was probably longer than it is now.
Absolutely. And fundamentally, people are walking around with a communicator, an ad device in their hand, all the time. And so, the exposure to it is quite high.
Yeah, no, and like nowadays, you get ads through nearly every app that you're on. If you're on YouTube, you're on TikTok, Instagram. It's like a walk-in device that's just there to advertise to you and for brands to speak to you, basically, I would say.
Yeah. And I think getting the brand positioning correct is more than ever more important skill.
Definitely.
you
Wayne,
know,
what
and
does
to,
your role? Oh, go on. Sorry, go on.
you know, what I was saying, there can tend to be a problem with people because they've got access to something they believe they can. If I liken that to sport, that's like thinking because you can buy a cricket bat that you're going to get on the Australian team.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I got a bat and ball. I know how to hit the ball. And so there's a lot of that. You can have a lot of people that go, I know what I want. I just need someone to do it. I'll tell them how I want it.
It's giving people more access to things than they think. Like, they think, yeah, I know I'll be able to do this, or I know exactly how I want to have it done. When
Yes.
really there's experts in the field, do you know what I mean, that should be telling them how they should be doing it as opposed to.
Yeah. I always, as a smile say, yeah, I've watched quite a few movies on neurosurgery. You know, I reckon I could give that a go. I watch YouTube.
So what does your role look like today inside Visual Design Group?
Yeah, it varies dramatically, I guess, because, being in the business for 48 years, the skill set gets quite broad. So I work across many things. Currently, I'm doing quite a bit of work on and developing a new architecture in that space, because it's a little bit like being out to sea, where when a tidal wave comes through, you just get a little swell in deep water. But by the time it hits the shore and people realize what it is, it's too late. And so it's important to catch that wave rather than get left behind. And it's
Mhm.
coming through a lot faster than what people realize in the background. And there is large amounts of money being spent on it. And it's a wave that's not going to stop. It's not going
Definitely.
to have the brakes put on it.
And so are you building this architecture to directly help Visual Design Group stay ahead and optimize it and work, with this new trend?
It goes beyond that. It's a global piece, basically.
Hmm.
There was a system I developed, probably be well over 12 years ago now, with people,
Mm.
picking the right people and how they interact and you connect with them to get far greater results in a joint process. For example, I was last guest speaker at a national conference for defence. I think it ran for about 3 days. And national security and intelligence agencies, brass mainly. My role was to basically say that the systems they're using for decision making is slow, and that this system is a lot more efficient and effective. And then after that, they said, so I was the end of the seminar. They were looking if I could run it for 2 hours. Normally it goes for 2.5 days. And so what I did was thought, sweaty palms, here we go, 2 hours. How am I going to pull this off? But one of the things that was really amazing was that they were all, top in the military, brass, and top agency people, and also ones from overseas, from different countries. So when I gave them, they said if I could get 1/3 of the people to turn up to do it, it would be success. Everyone turned up. We ran it for 2 hours, and I got told later by their Brains Trust, which is their science and technology department, what I'd achieved in 2 hours, where they implemented 2 ideas up into defence for implementation, would take 2 years. So it's about 7,000
Wow.
times faster. Look at applying that technology, I
Mhm.
guess, to AI.
Big stuff, definitely. And if you can achieve results like you have in the past with 7,000 times faster with creating them decisions, and you can put that in with AI as well into these new projects, and you're in for some return, I would say.
Yeah. And so the idea of the design is to be fairly broad, like not just within an industry, but
Mm.
across all sorts of different industries. It's a different way of thinking. It's a new type of architecture that gets developed. But also to frame that up properly, that group I was talking to were high end and very gifted, in
Mm.
defence and of national security and IT. So that was one of the other big things that allowed it to be that successful.
That they knew they could articulate what you were saying and put it into action, probably because they were
Yeah.
such high individuals. So
and
what would
and
be
st-
the
and strategists and things like that. Yeah,
Mm.
and so they got that really well. But I was quite shocked at how it's always been really effective, but that was out of the ballpark.
So if you're designing a system that will span multiple industries, I suppose you have to sort of get the logic down so people with less less of an ability to understand these types of things can understand it more broadly.
This will be different again. The system,
Yeah.
it's black boxed at the moment, but yeah, no, it'll be different again. So it'll operate 24/7, whether it's got an operator on it or not, and the
Autonomous.
information will be always the latest, and it'll be
Mhm.
updating in real time. So it's not so much. I mean, you can ask questions and do things, but there are certain critical indicators and information that you need when people can access that information all the time in real time. It makes running things and doing things a lot different.
More streamlined as well. So a lot more
Yeah,
efficient and streamlined.
yeah, and transparent. Because one of the advantages and disadvantages of humans is that they can be quite creative and think outside the box. Certain people can do that, but we can't process huge amounts of information and then synthesize that to be able to use it specifically in a task, and then have a lens that can go really broad, really narrow, and really broad in near real time. So it can sort of get laser focus on a specific point, but also have a very broad knowledge base globally. So
No,
where it fits
definitely.
in. So you don't lose perspective or, miss things that have relevance.
Yeah, no, definitely. AI is a lot better at that than the human brain. I always say it like the human brain's not really like a filing cabinet. It's not like a hard drive that you can just flick through and be like, oh yeah, that's there. Do you know what I mean? We're much more better at human communications and creativity and things like that. Whereas I think AI trumps us on that aspect.
Yeah, we can process at really high speeds. One of the problems with the human brain is on, the right side, you've got the creative,
Hmm.
you've got that aspect on the left. It's more logical, and of course schools force it to left on logical. All of our decisions are fundamentally made at a subconscious level and then justified afterwards consciously. So roughly the consciousness processes about 40 bits per second. The subconscious processes about 11 million bits per second. So people are making subconscious decisions and then retrospectively justifying them with logic as if they made them. But consciousness can't keep up. Decisions are well made before.
So, like, what would you say the biggest trends are inside marketing and advertising right now?
It's a very good question. This is my personal view, yeah, which can be different to how trends might be perceived by others. My feeling is that being retrospective, which most people are, whether you get governments or people or businesses, they work out things after the fact, and they work it from usually a narrow knowledge base, so their area of expertise, not a contextual global thing, and their lack of understanding of AI and what it's going to do, and the power that will give people if they know, using it the right way. What
So,
what would what would cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars and maybe months of research and development, can be probably done within an hour at
yeah,
very little cost. So in the right hands, you can solve a lot of problems really quickly if you have that capability to use it. It's like we spoke about. It's like a tennis racket or bat. It's got a certain capability, but at the end of the day, the person using it, like a musical instrument, right? Anyone can buy a guitar, but it's how you use it. And I think that's getting lost a little bit too. I think
uh,
it's AI has been underestimated. And then on the other front, a lot of people think, oh yeah, um, it's like a browser, or I talk to it like a
no,
companion.
definitely. What do you think the hidden cost is for marketing and advertising agencies who are not using AI to the extent where, or not using it properly?
I think it's going to be a huge cost.
Mm.
Be, and I'll frame it this way. The new currency in the world is intelligence, and AI is going to have the intelligence. So if you don't have the intelligence, it's like, I guess, being at school, right? You're not going to get good marks. And if you don't have intelligence in your organization, you're going to get beaten. So there's systems which can make things more efficient, but I'm talking about something above that, where you have situational awareness across the globe and by sectors, and you start to understand what other sectors will affect your sector or your client sectors in advance. So you can use properly peer into the future and have predictions that can be fairly accurate. And
Yeah, no,
then work out ways of how to navigate that for what your options are. Whereas
no, yeah,
most
that
people wait till something happens, right?
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
they
yeah.
go,
No,
oh no, now we've got to respond. Going forward, that's all going to be too late. Yeah,
so the companies that get in front, you would say, and get in front of not just being efficient, but actually using the intelligence, that artificial intelligence, to actually predict trends, upscales, downscales, and where, so they can preempt things more than
correct.
react things.
Yeah, look, it's no different if you went to a doctor. You want an intelligent one, don't you? Yeah, you know what I'm telling you. I failed med school. I failed the first year, and because I really
Mm.
couldn't learn too much, and I killed more people than I helped. But don't worry. So it's going to be an intelligence economy. You know, the people that have got, like it has been with a lot of things, information is power. Yeah,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
it's going to come through in a wave, and most people will get caught out of
no,
because of the
definitely.
speed.
It's going to change a lot. It's going to change a lot of things. And yeah, if you're correct in your prediction as well, I think a lot of people are going to be left behind because they will be wanting to react as opposed to preempt. And they underestimate the power of what AI can do, you
Mm.
know.
Well, even in the industrial age, right, which is slower, this is going to
Hmm.
be the fastest in all of history. It took about 70 years for it to balance itself out and 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 reorganize the system. But this will be faster and more disruptive.
Yeah, no, and people have to change the way they learn, change the way that they work, because a lot of jobs it's going to go, of course, and this it's a fact that that's going to happen. So I feel like people need to, on a smaller level and on a bigger scale as well. I think need to learn these new ways of using these tools and using AI as opposed to hold it up, saying, "Oh, my job's gone. What am I going to do?" I feel like action is what's needed. You know, what I mean, action is the direct opposite of anxiety. It gets rid of anxiety, and I feel like new skills need to be learned and new ways of thinking need to be taught. Also,
Yeah. We're at a place now where learning is in real time. It's that
mm,
rapid. It's not like I learned something 10 years ago and it's going to be relevant
mm.
now. It's going to be quite rapid. But we don't have to step too far back. I mean, how many people would have said not that long ago, I'm not into those computer things? You know, like, I'm old fashioned, like I'm not going to worry about that. And
Yeah,
businesses that didn't put computers in, how they would have
mm,
suffered, or say,
yeah,
I'm not into mobiles or I'm not into the telephone or the
mm.
internet. It's the same, except this time it's a lot faster and with far greater scope.
I have to agree. Even with social media, people who thought I don't need to, as a business, I don't need to be on social media. They were the ones who missed out, who were left behind, who were left thinking in retrospect, as opposed to preempting the trend that's now. Obviously, it's not just a trend now; it's like a way of life. It's a way of advertising. It's a way of
Sure.
it's the norm. You know what I mean? It's normal.
Yeah.
It's even hard to think like now of businesses before social media and before internet because it was just done in such a like a Stone Age way as opposed to like now how far it's gone now. Do you know what I mean? Like it's so many times forward, from even when the first computers or the first social media to now, it's incredible. And obviously I think AI is going to be like, as I agree with you, I think AI is going to be like that, but on steroids,
I,
more faster.
Yeah, I agree with you. See, one of the things they did, and sometimes you'll hear people say, we really don't know how it does what it does. And a lot of that I understand is because what they did is they trained it to learn. And so what it does is it learns itself. And the more it learns, then, like a child. And a few others have made a good point in that, like, with children, you can't really know what they're going to grow up to be, what occupation they'll go into and what they do. But one of the things you can do is teach them values and ethics. And that's one of the things that I think is missing a lot in the AI race is that
Mm,
we need to be more
mm,
focused on safety rails about its ethics. We,
mm.
we have that for people. We have
Yeah.
laws on ethics, what you
Mm.
can do and what you can't do. I'm just quite surprised they're not doing it with such a powerful tool. I understand why they're not doing it because there's a race in different countries and funding and, they don't want to slow it down. But yeah, that's an important consideration.
So it's definitely the race that's going on that's stopping them all from putting the brakes on a little bit, shall we say, and
Yes,
trying to think of more ethical. It's like the modern day type of arms race, if you know what I mean, like where they're trying to, because it's going to change everything. It's going to, from a business perspective, cool, but it's going to change defense budgets. It's going to change how we do, lots of different things if you're talking about it on a country level. But I try not to think too much about that. I'm trying to think of it just as a business perspective. Otherwise, it just gets a bit
sure.
crazy.
Otherwise, you mightn't sleep at night.
Exactly, exactly. 100%. So, Wayne, what would you say is working well, and where do you still feel slight friction at Visual Design Group?
What's working well? Yeah, the projects that I'm working on at the moment, I believe in
Mhm.
AI. I think that's at the moment it's beyond expectations, which is nice, isn't it? Right? And that's using software engineering standards and defense standards and benchmarking it against all different types of grades of software. Yeah, and it's only halfway through
Mm,
its
yeah.
development. So that's working really well. And what's important is that I've got a lot of energy in that space. So that's what I'm focused on at the moment, is doing that.
Is there any parts of it where you're still feeling slight friction, maybe from like a marketing perspective, advertising's perspective, that you wish you could, that you wish you could change, or you're looking to change?
Yeah, I think if I take the market generally, if you position a product, it's more to do with psychology, but if you position a product really well, it'll make money faster than anything else and
Yeah.
you'll lose money. Bud Light, for example, lost billions with their debacle. I was horrified that it even happened because where's the sample group test? You don't have to have a large audience to actually test out the key messaging and your positioning. And I know
Mhm.
I know enough about the Bud Light audience to know how they'd react to it, right? And it wasn't a brainer. But what it
Mm,
was someone who had an idea about, woke and didn't understand their
mm,
audience, didn't talk to them. They don't know what I know, and it cost them a fortune. And if you look at things like going back, Marlboro, which used to be a women's cigarette, 1% of
mhm,
the market, brought an advertising agency in, changed it to Marlboro Man, and became the biggest selling cigarette in the world. There's not many things that move the dial like that. Now, on top of that, I guess my point is if you go into a hospital or a sports person or something like that, there usually is quite an admiration for their skills and capability. I tend to think that doesn't happen a lot in the advertising or
mhm,
space or, um, behavioral economics and psychology. With high level people, they that I've dealt with, they understand it, but I don't think most people do. I think that becomes problematic. As we spoke about before, where a lot of people may go, I know what I want, I just need someone to do it. And yeah, and that can become problematic. And the other problem is that if it doesn't work out, then they've got someone to blame.
and being able to, it's always, they always are looking for that as well in them type of situations. So I mean, well,
Yeah.
it wasn't me. I don't know. I mean, it was because of this.
Yeah. It's a strategy, isn't it? I got myself covered.
Yeah,
Well, I
yeah,
didn't do it. I just told them what to do, but I didn't do it.
yeah, definitely. So, Wayne, my last two questions is, where do you want to be in the next 12 to 18 months in terms of business?
Is having the product on the market, I guess. I
Mm.
mean, I'll be using it myself, of course, but getting the product on the market.
And how do you plan?
Yeah, no, you ask your question. Yeah.
How do you plan on getting it to as many people as you can? How many different businesses and different sectors? How do you plan to like get it out to the masses?
First up, it's a matter of getting it right. And I think the second point to that is that I, I, I my target wouldn't be the masses. It's more to do with, I would think, defence and government and
Okay.
enterprise
Hmm.
capability. Mainly because, well, and SMEs, larger SMEs,
Yeah.
they will see I believe, the greatest benefit
Yeah.
because it can operate at departmental level, you know, segmented,
Hmm.
um, or whole organization. So you might have a department that's really focused on this, can just be doing that. And it's not changing software, it's just its capability can be focused where you want to have it focused.
So
Yeah. So they see the greatest benefit of it.
would you say there's a lot of SMBs across the world? Would you be trying to get into all large SMBs and governments and defences?
Yeah. Well, what ones that are interested? I would think that the product would sell itself. I'm also particularly interested in government because of its transparency capability in real time. Oversight, I guess, because, duplication's a really big problem in government and it costs huge billions in duplication. And you'll get that the same in organizations and enterprises where the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing and it can be overlap and all sorts of other problems. This will negate that, massively mitigate any of that, because it'll know what everyone and everything, like, without getting into, it'll be scaled as well in clearance levels, right? So it's not like everyone can know exactly what's going on, but it will be aware of everything that's going on. And if you have the clearance level, like anything, defense or any business or see it, you'll be able to see it really quickly, right down into detail and what's happening. And also, like I said, over the horizon, like just think about it in the days of ships, right? And radar came in where you could see over the horizon and go, gee, we've got battleships of the enemy coming over, rather than, hello, we can see, we can physically see people. So it's got massive advantages because it allows you to have first move advantage and gives you time to, and with a system, you won't need a lot of time, but it'll quickly calculate best scenarios to deal with it, and then you'll be able to implement it well ahead of the time that you're dealing with. So, it's intelligence, basically.
Like a hive mind almost in the business or the enterprise or
Correct.
the government. A hive mind that sort of has a broad understanding of everything that's going on, but with clearance levels to be able to, so only people with a certain clearance levels can do it. It's almost like a nervous system for the whole business or government type of thing. It sounds very interesting.
Yeah, because what we've got at the moment is that system with clearances, and I've had different clearances, but it's all manual, and it's just not fast enough, and it's not holistic enough. But like I said, it's like, when radar came out, right? And what radar can do now is lots of things. Yeah.
Definitely. Wayne, my last question is, if you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing in your business, what would it be and why?
Well, probably the best thing of answering is the software that I'm working on will be the best way to change it in the fastest way. But also the other thing with it is that it can help change humanity and the way we actually function and operate dramatically. So instead of using an old hierarchical command and control system, it'll be a much flatter model. The other thing that a lot of people don't study is history. There's been around 75 major civilizations in history that have all failed, thought they never would, don't exist anymore. And each one does the same as the one before it. And we're currently repeating what's been done right through history. A lot of power in the hands of very few. It tends to go that way. It goes well and then it tends to go that way. And then it's like a pyramid where it gets too heavy on the top. The base is eroded out and it collapses on itself. And it usually happens very quickly. It accelerates towards the end. And then people try to hang on to it, and keep it going. But it just fails. We need new models. Versus nearly 900 years old, education systems nearly 200 years old. They don't solve problems going forward. You wouldn't really use 200-year-old piece of machinery, would you, trying to compete? Yeah, that would, I think.
So Wayne, thank you for coming on and sharing valuable insights into your business, your company, your new project as well. Where can my viewers and listeners reach out to you or find you, websites, things like that?
Yeah. So website is visualdesigngroup.com and also on LinkedIn.
Perfect.
The two main ones.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on. And like I say, it's been a pleasure, interesting conversation that I always like to have. And everybody that's listening, if you like the show, please like, comment, subscribe, send to a friend that would be interested in this. And we'll be back next week. Thank you so much, Wayne.
Thanks, Stephen. Pleasure.